Occupants of 1291 witness the FBI. You have a warrant. You're safe. You come out of the front door with your hands up.
Later, a bang followed by smoke. Officers had guns drawn as a man came out of the home with hands raised. Chopper 6 was overhead as he was put into cuffs and then into the back of the vehicle. Next-door neighbor Bert Trama tried to see what was happening.
We counted close to 24 federal agents, some of them in tactical gear, entering the residence. Why they were here and what they were looking for, that remains unclear.
FBI agents surrounding several homes on the 3100 block of Weymouth Street after an early morning federal raid across several Kensington blocks.
At least 29 members connected to the Weymouth Street group were taken into custody after the FBI and local authorities moved in on a 24-hour open-air drug market that had been affecting the Philadelphia community for more than a decade.
And what the two folks at the top were doing is they were importing drugs, fentanyl from California and Mexico, and cocaine from Puerto Rico.
2 years ago, Florida lawmakers set up state assistance for fentanyl eradication. Sheriff John Minas says funding through FDLE from the SAFE program supported this costly operation to shut down a Central Florida drug ring.
So as you can imagine, drug dealers don't work 9 to 5. They work all hours of the night and weekends. They go to different communities, different counties. They're constantly, getting rid of their phones and their.
Officials are now describing this as the largest federal indictment in Philadelphia in more than 100 years. Even the FBI director expressed surprise at the scale of the operation. According to authorities, actions like this are essential to protecting communities across the United States.
This takedown is how you safeguard American cities from coast to coast. This takedown is an interagency process, years in the making. Extensive legal service and process was executed here, correctly done to make sure that the integrity of the investigation is upheld and the criminals are put into the legal system and brought before a judge and a jury, and they will have their rightful day in court. But the overarching importance of this case and this takedown is this is exactly how you safeguard American lives. You go after the organizations that are inflicting pain across America in each and every city. And this is my tenure as FBI director. This is one of the largest and most impressive gang takedowns that I have ever seen. So I felt it important to come here and just shake the hands of the brave men and women that did this work. I did not have much of a role in this operation. The FBI brought in an incredible amount of assets.
This is one of the largest and most effective gang takedowns I have ever seen. I felt it was important to come here and personally thank the dedicated teams that
$1 billion drug bust at the Port of Philadelphia. So far, agents have found several shipping containers loaded with 33,000 pounds of cocaine. All of it discovered during an exhaustive search that's now lasted more than 24 hours.
Eliminate and eradicate entire drug trafficking networks. We're going to clean out whole neighborhoods, and we're going to return these neighborhoods to its residents. The blocks belong to the residents, not the drug dealers, and we are just getting.
This major raid came after a decade-long investigation, and everything unfolded on the morning of October 24th when federal agents and local authorities moved in to shut down the operations taking place on Weymouth Street.
A large bang,
flash grenades, federal agents, and a large armored vehicle swarming around this home just before 7:30 a.m.
There's the bang of the flash grenade, and I look out the window and there's 5 red dots on my face.
A lot of commotion, a lot of guns, a lot of equipment, and big army tank type thing on the lawn, and it was pretty extreme. People in the backyard, snipers, drones.
We are in the 3100 block of Weymouth Street here in Kensington, and take a look behind me. Well, more than halfway up the block there, you can see federal agents are on the street. We saw the letters FBI on their backs. We also just saw some FBI agents covering boxes. A team of federal investigators have been out here now. They have the words Evidence Response Team written on the back of their jacket.
Within minutes, teams of FBI agents and local officers were going door to door. Their safety gear was ready.
Video shows agents busting into several homes on the block. Loudspeakers were heard, demanding suspects come out. The entire neighborhood blocked off with hundreds of law enforcement.
Residents looked out from their windows as agents entered multiple homes, bringing individuals out one at a time. By the end of the operation, 33 people had been formally charged, and 24 were taken into custody that morning, with 6 more already detained earlier. The operation covered several blocks in Kensington.
State's Attorney David Metcalf says the operation dates back to 2016. Prosecutors named Jose Antonio Morales Nieves the ringleader of the gang, with Roman-Montanez and Nancy Rios-Valentin high-ranking leaders. Together, authorities say they ran the operation like a successful business, keeping schedules for dealers and lookouts, and threatened violence to anyone who went to authorities.
The people of Kensington deserve safety, dignity, and peace, as any other neighborhood does.
Of the 33 indicted, 32 are now in custody with ties to Delaware, New Jersey, and Puerto Rico. A takedown authorities are calling historic for the day.
At the center of it all was one group known as the Weymouth Street Trafficking Organization.
This Weymouth Street gang is not just one instance of removing a couple of people. It is an example of how you remove an entire organization that is corrupting not just the city of Philadelphia, but the state of Pennsylvania as well.
This group operated in a highly organized way, almost like a corporation. Investigators discovered handwritten schedules for dealers and lookouts, notes detailing who covered each shift.
The next indictment has a space with your name on it. Director Patel, I hope you plan to make more trips to Philadelphia, because as the commissioner said, we are just getting started here. On the subject of Kensington, I'll say, as the commissioner noted, its residents deserve safety. And on the subject of prevention or intervention or enforcement, I think we've shown today what we're going to do from an enforcement perspective. I frequently get asked, what are you going to do about Kensington? And today shows what we're going to do. We're going to eliminate and eradicate entire drug trafficking networks. We're going to clean out whole neighborhoods, and we're going to return these neighborhoods to its residents. The blocks belong to the residents, not the drug dealers.
At the top of the organization were 2 individuals, Jose Antonio Morales Nieves, known locally as Flaco, and his associate, Roman-Montanez. Working together, they built what authorities describe as a cartel-style operation.
Feds say the operation revolved around one man, Jose Antonio Morales Nieves, a.k.a. Flaco. Prosecutors say he ran a drug network that stretched from Puerto Rico to the Kensington neighborhood of Philadelphia. Nieves controlled several properties on the street, allegedly offering free rent to tenants who agreed to move his product. In the 173-page indictment obtained by Newsmax, federal prosecutors outline a narcotics ring that ran like a business. The Weymouth crew kept a schedule of who did what and when. Runners resupplied the drugs. Caseworkers managed the drugs. Enforcers protected the drugs. And of course, the hustlers or street dealers made the transaction.
They collected payments from anyone who wanted to sell in their territory, leading to widespread distribution throughout the streets of Kensington. According to the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, David Metcalf, the group also created fear in the community through acts of intimidation.
They ran it like a business, but they also ran it, as the director alluded to, by violence, by fear, and by threats. They enforced their territory through the threats of assaults, shootings, and murder. They threatened anyone who talked to or cooperated with law enforcement.
The attorney's office released images they say show people lining up on the street while members of the group distributed samples. Investigators also noted that some members appeared in music videos displaying weapons to project an image of power and threaten rivals. Thanks to this takedown,
gang violence is an issue in New York City. This sends a message to them if they're out there. Heed what we're doing this morning, and if you continue, we're coming for you.
That message to everyone who picks up a gun. Police Commissioner Keishant Sewell just took over the department, but this is the type of police work she says she will build on. Before the takedown, Sewell is brought up to speed on the case. During a briefing, the facts are disturbing, especially involving young people turning to violence. But this takedown mirrors Sewell's mission.
the operation made the neighborhood safer for families living there. But even as things quieted down on Weymouth Street, investigators had already identified another group stepping in to take over, using the same structure and the same business model just a few miles away. This time, the investigation led authorities from Philadelphia's local corners all the way to Puerto Rico. Only days after the Weymouth Street arrests, federal and local teams carried out another large-scale operation near the intersection of 5th and Cornwall.
Authorities say their investigation began in February of 2023, and it was last week when law enforcement hit multiple properties of North American and also the 2900 block of Lawrence Street.
Our law enforcement teams went to 14 locations, executed multiple federal search and arrest warrants, and arrested over 12 suspects. A total of 57 firearms, including multiple personally made firearms, also known as PMFs, 5.56 and .223 caliber rifles, pistols with extended magazines, stolen firearms, and thousands of rounds of ammunition, as well as a machine gun conversion device, also known as a
Undercover agents had been monitoring the area for months, and what they discovered was another tightly organized network. They observed vehicles pulling into nearby parking lots and quick hand-to-hand exchanges. According to Pennsylvania Attorney General Dave Sunday, this was a multi-layered operation.
Everyone had their role, everyone had a rank. There were packagers, transporters, street dealers, and someone that oversaw the street dealing and collected all of the money.
The investigation lasted a little over a year, and when the coordinated raids began, officers moved into homes across the city and into Levittown, Bucks County.
The arrest on Thursday, police also got 19 guns, 12 kilos of cocaine, 50 pounds of marijuana, and $275,000 in cash, as well as cars involved in the trafficking.
By the end of the operation, 21 individuals were charged and 16 were taken into custody, but the leader, identified as Jimmy Torres, managed to escape. Authorities say Torres operated between Philadelphia and Puerto Rico, overseeing shipments and money flow while staying ahead of investigators. He remains at large, and officials believe he may have already returned to the island. However, the raid still resulted in major arrests. Torres's son, Matthew Torres, was among those detained. Another individual, Johnny Barrelame, was accused of storing large quantities of illegal substances inside his home before they were distributed throughout the city. Even though this takedown marked a significant success, what investigators discovered next was unlike anything they had ever encountered. To anyone looking from the outside, the massive ship docked at the port of Philadelphia appeared to be just another cargo vessel, rows of steel containers stacked like towering metal walls. But when Customs and Homeland Security agents boarded the ship,
came in Monday morning as the MSC Guyane arrived at the Packer Marine Terminal. Chopper 6 overhead as Customs and Border Protection deployed an X-ray vehicle to inspect the shipping containers. That's when officers discovered the contraband cargo. Each shipping container then boarded by Customs, ICE, Homeland Security, and Philadelphia Police. Canines used to identify the packages as cocaine. In total, 16.5 tons of the illegal drug made its way on a long...
Inside was an estimated $33,000 worth of product per package, adding up to more than $1 billion in total street value. To put this into perspective, it became one of the largest seizures in U.S. history and the biggest ever recorded in Philadelphia. Federal officials said the amount discovered in those containers nearly doubled what had been seized nationwide during that entire year. Agents spent hours unloading container after container, each hiding sealed bricks of powder inside concealed compartments. But the real mystery was how such a massive shipment reached Philadelphia in the first place. Investigators examined the vessel's route and found that it had traveled from Chile, passed through Panama, stopped in the Bahamas, and then headed toward the U.S. East Coast. Somewhere along that journey, the packages were secretly loaded onto the ship using floating nets off the coast of Peru, where smugglers retrieved the bundles and hid them inside containers before sealing them again. Crew members were questioned, and several were charged for allegedly helping coordinate the shipment. The shipping company, Mediterranean Shipping,
the ship's owner, Mediterranean Shipping Company, later issued a statement saying that drug traffickers often try to exploit commercial vessels. He also stated that they were working closely with U.S. authorities.
Investigators now believe this shipment was connected to the same supply chain feeding criminal groups whose operations have harmed Philadelphia communities for years. But the bigger question remains, if this is the one shipment they caught, how many others have already slipped through? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below, and remember to subscribe for more detailed stories like this. You can also click on any of the cards now appearing on your screen to explore more of our videos.